I was on Wikipedia the other day, and as a thing I like to do on Wikipedia a lot of the time, I would say, I was browsing the random article generator thing. If you don't know, it's a little button you press and it generates a random article. So I thought, well, I am currently unemployed and begging for things to do. Why don't I do a YouTube video on literally whatever comes up first? Informative, do some research, find a story. There might not be one. We'll find out today, on today's episode of I think we're going to go welcome to Wiki Roulette. So today's article, let's see, hitting random. What is this? What is this? The Albree Pigeon Fraser. The Albree Pigeon Fraser. We're doing it on a plane. I don't know anything about it. The year's 1917, 3 years into the beginning of modern warfare, and despite inventing the damn thing, the Americans are far behind Europe in the aviation race. The Wright brothers, who had been the first sibling relationship to fall indefinitely, sued their way through the who's who of budding aerospace engineers, egregiously defending their patents and paperwork that they had, and not really allowing for free market space in the American aerospace industry. Now, here comes our star. The feature of today's Wiki Roulette. A humble boat sale company from Boston was approached by a wacky inventor, a guy called George Norman Albree. He expressed a major incentive to crack into the air market. But remember, this is 1915. This is very early. The Wright brothers had only done their maiden flight 8 years ago from the beginning of the story. Flying was very new. Between 1913 and 15, Albree had his first punt at the skies. He tested his first model, the Albree Timpson Model U, with a hard landing. He essentially crashed. Followed then shortly behind by the Model G Scout, which, although it did fly and did work and ultimately did land, on its way to its first proper test, it was involved in a railway accident, and the plane was damaged beyond repair. So, for Albree's third instalment, he made this. The Albree Pigeon Fraser Pursuit. The first all-American, full-blooded fighter plane. Gone are the need for 4 encumbering wings. We have 2. We have 2 wings on this, one on the left and one on the right. None of this stability. Disgusting. Albree saw a future of 2 winged machines flying and dominating the skies, whether that was the skies of warfare or going to the south of France with your family. Maybe that was actually inspired by the French, who had invented the 2-wing flyer only 8 years before. Regardless, 2-winged planes were the future, and Albree wanted a bit of the pie. In 1917, the Albree Pigeon Fraser Pursuit was ordered. Despite its flaws though, the plane was surprisingly innovative, having one of the first examples of a flying tail, which is essentially the bit at the back of the plane, those little wings that kind of go up and down, allowing for more movement and a little bit more stability, I would say. There was some springs in the shock absorbers for landing gear, probably because of, the hard landing of his first flight, and a multitude of other technologies that were reasonably new for the time. I mean, everything was. It was, planes had only just been invented. With product finalised, testing began on the Albree Pigeon Fraser, a plane that could change the tide of the war, and American aviation that could push forward a solid 2-winged plane. This, however, would be a fate it would never see. During the second test, which featured its first flying test, the plane fell from the sky and crashed, killing the pilot inside. Initially, this was put down to poor mobility from the plane and performance issues, which, although were true, it ultimately was the ill mental health of the pilot involved. He stepped into that plane that day, knowing he wasn't going to come back out. This would help seal the plane's fate. The military concluded to be underpowered and structurally suspect, with the plane being canned for the superior European models. Despite being cleared of all charges and having no input in the pilot's actions that day, George Albree was horrified by the crash that he had created. He walked away from aviation that day, never to return. Instead, he went back to where it all began, the waves, a frontier which had been conquered for centuries. As for the Albree Pigeon Fraser, of course, the crash plane and the first test plane were destroyed in their testing, but the third model was thankfully donated to a museum in 1961, to the Old Rhinebeck Museum in New York State, where it still lives today as the first less than functional American fighter. So there you go, that's the first random Wikipedia article. I wonder what will be in next instalment. If you want to check some links to the places that I got all this information from, I will leave them down in the description. And yeah, subscribe if you want more. I don't know how often I'll do this, but it's been fun. Thank you.